if you're a dentist, how are people finding you?
Welcome to the Dental Construction Insider Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We are the podcast. If you're thinking of doing a startup, an expansion, a remodel, we're a go-to people. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're here with the guest, Mike Burgos from Burgos Stone Productions. And I got the usual crew with me, John and Veronica. And so let's get into this.
How's it going?
It's going good. Man, that was good.
Yeah, that was really
Good
good. I
about
like
that.
that.
Damn.
I like that.
Good about that.
How's their day been, Tommy?
Dude, this day's been hectic.
This week.
I know. It's like when we were like, we know we have this time planned out, right? And we try to do it like as far as the end of the week as possible. And usually we do it like 5 on Fridays or so. But then it's miserable because we stay till 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then we're trying to take all this stuff down and reset stuff. You came in and really did a bang up job about telling us how to use our stuff. As you guys can tell, we are kind of moved around a little bit, and it's because it's better.
I did a little bit of a production design.
did.
Erica
Yeah.
helped me out a lot too.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you, Erica.
Erica. Hold on. Oh, there's a clapper here, but I don't want to press the wrong one. Anyway, so hey, Mike.
What's up?
Mike, I've known Mike for a while. We used to work together at the old company, and he helped us with our video and stuff. And so I thought it would be good to bring him on because a lot of you dentists will do video for your marketing program or your campaign of some sort. And Mike's the guy that does video. He did our video. We didn't know a lot of shit. He helped us figure out what that stuff was and what we needed to do. It was a really good thing that we did. It was worth the investment. For us as this micro company, it was a sizable investment, but it's something that you have to do. I already know we're going to have to do it again because things have changed from the time that we did the first video till now.
And it wasn't that long ago too.
It wasn't even that long
It was
ago.
like March.
It was
right?
in December.
It was
No,
in December.
It was in December.
Yeah.
When
Our
we did the video?
Our video was. Did we record it in December?
It was December
Oh,
6th.
it was December. Shoot.
Wow.
So let me tell you what. When people ask us what we do and we go into the whole program and explain to them what we do and stuff, it's easy for us to just explain to them and give them some talking points, and then bullet points, and then we send them the link to the video that Mike produced. And boom, it's just so much easier for them to really fully understand what we do. You shot all the video.
So let me
and
ask you a
edit
question
it.
before we start.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was your expectations? Like, what was your process going from, we don't have a video, a
Yeah.
brand video, because this was like very much a brand video,
Yeah.
and we need one, we want one. Why?
Yeah, well, of course, Nicole was the director of the video
Sure.
at Transcendental. She did a great job. It was fantastic. But before we had a video, we were just, stumbling across and trying to explain to people what we do and not trying to sound like,
Salespeople.
like salespeople.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
none of us like those people.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, for sure.
We didn't want to sound like we're selling a used car or selling them something that like they had to have. And so the process was really tough. I mean, it really was for me. And Veronica heard some of my struggles trying to tell them, and then them asking like, well, I went to your website, but there was not a whole lot of data there, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we only had what we had because we were starting up ourselves,
Exactly.
and this practice building is a sizable investment for them. So trying to figure out what we did was really hard. We did all the work, but trying to convey that to them on the phone was really hard until we had the video,
Even just pictures might be hard to we did this, we did this, but
John would send pictures or photos of things that he's designed and done, and we put together, but the whole video process, the interviews and stuff really made it. It really pulled stuff out of us that we didn't even know we did. There was some
Yeah.
stuff that I didn't even know with the testimonials from the docs, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was pretty neat to hear.
And our services have changed so much since then.
that's crazy.
They have.
So
That's
we
why we know
wanna-
we need to do another video,
Yeah.
and we know it's coming. But we're trying to, we're doing our website too. I mean, it's been the same website for 4 years,
Right.
right? That's been some time, right, John? And so, it needs to get done again. But anyway, yeah. Thanks
It's
for
really
the video.
helped. The video has really helped us.
Yeah. So, how long you been doing video type work?
All right, so I'll give you a little bit of my
Yeah.
backstory then. I graduated in 2004 from high school, and I actually went to the University of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually went for music.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
really?
Yeah, so I went for jazz vocal and studio music. So I was singing and I was playing the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for 4 years.
Wow.
And the biggest reason I did it is because I got a full scholarship to go.
Oh,
They gave
okay.
they paid for the whole thing. And back then, school was pretty cheap, right?
Yeah.
Cheap. It was
It
a
was
private
cheap.
school and it was 30,000 a year, and they paid the whole thing.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah. Now it's like 80. It's crazy. But so I went to UM and I graduated, and I'd actually done an internship at Telemundo. You guys know
Yeah,
Telemundo?
Oh,
I know
yeah.
Telemundo.
Uh-huh. I did a internship. I was actually helping out a radio producer, so I was like an assistant to a radio producer, and then I ended up doing radio, like spots, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you hear on the radio, I would actually do the radio spots. So I went back. I finished my last year of college, and I kid you not, the day of my graduation, I get a phone call, and it's Joe Pazos. He was a radio producer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good friend, and he calls me and he goes, "Hey, Mike." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Are you looking for a job?" And I told him, I'm literally graduating. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, it's not in audio though, so we can't do like audio mixing or things like that. It's for video. Are you still okay with that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That's fine. That's fine. I can learn video. It's not a big deal."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Yeah, I trust you because I saw that you learn quickly, and it's not a big deal. It starts like it starts off as an internship, and and then you can get some paid gigs from it."
Yeah.
It's like, okay. What ended up happening is he became an investor in this company called Redcar. Redcar is this really, it used to be a really, really big post production house in LA.
Mm-hmm.
They used to do a whole bunch of like high end commercials. And so they were franchising and they were going to a bunch of different cities, and they started one in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So he became an investor in Redcar Miami, and he wanted me to be a video editor, assistant video editor. So he called me in it, and I just came in not knowing anything. They
Wow.
called in an editor from LA. They
Mm-hmm.
moved him to Miami, and he started doing a whole bunch of commercials, editing a bunch of commercials. And I became his assistant video editor. I knew nothing. I knew, like, I had to learn Final Cut 7. I had to learn Avid. I had to learn After Effects because um, one of the things that happens with high-end brands is not only do you have all the video, but you then have a lot of stuff like animations that you got to do, right? So um, if you haven't seen their video, first of all, go take a look. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And when we introduce the brand, you're gonna see that there's an animation with their brand, right? The little compass, the things are rotating, and you see the all the letters come in, and that's a big deal for a brand, right? Like McDonald's. McDonald's are the arches,
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The
It's
arches.
simple,
Yeah.
right? But it creates like a lasting impression in you because it's animated, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just like fading in animation. It's like there's something to it. So I had to learn how to do all that stuff like on site.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned how to do that. I was probably an intern for like 6 months, and then they started giving me some like smaller gigs and this here and there, and I was assisting. And back then, this was 16 years ago. Um, Everything was still shot in film. Commercials were still shot in film,
Oh,
right?
Wow.
wow.
They were shot in film, 35 millimeter, and there was this huge post production process. So there's literally a person every step of the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shoot in film. You have to send the film to the lab. The lab has to deal with the film and then
Yeah.
digitize it, and the digitizing went into tapes, digicam, digibeta tapes.
Mm-hmm.
They would FedEx the tapes over to the post production house. Then as the assistant, I would grab the tapes and I would digitize them from an actual tape to the computer,
Uh-huh.
and then I would have to organize everything for the editor because the editor was like hot shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
He would come in at like 10:30,
Yeah.
and he'd work on his edit, and he'd leave at 4.
Yeah.
But I'd have to be there at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I'd set everything up for him. Like, I kid you not, it was literally he just came in and he's like, "All right, I want to look at the dailies," and all the bins, all the dailies, all the sequences were all done for him.
Mhm.
Right? I
Wow.
had to do all of that. And then he would look through the dailies and he'd start creating his edit and da da da. And when he finished with his edit, he would call me over and he'd say, "This is the edit that I think we're good with. Export it with the correct compression, upload it, write the email, get it to the producer so that they can see the spot, and then they send it off to the client. But I would do all the basically the grunt work in the front and in the end. And that was for 2 or 3 years. And then the editor who was from LA, he got sick of Miami. He was super white guy, Seth Gottlieb. He's so cool, but Miami just wasn't for him. He left back to LA, and so at that point, I filled in the gaps. They were like, "Do you think you can edit for a brand? Do you think you can?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, not a problem." I was shitting bricks.
Yeah, yeah.
But they put me like on the spot big time. But it's a little different than national campaigns. We were doing a lot of U.S. Hispanic campaigns, which are much smaller budgets, but they try to mimic the national campaigns, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I started. I'm actually very, very well versed into post production. I did a lot of post production work. I was the main editor for Red Car Miami. They unfortunately during the 2009 collapse, they crashed, and one of the original founders turned it into a production company. So they were doing a lot of productions for the agencies in the Miami area, and she had me join the team, the production team, and she would offer them my service. Right? She would, they would produce your whole commercial, and then Mike would do everything else.
Yeah.
Literally, I was the end of the pipeline. Like literally, they would shoot on Reds, REs, or whatever kind of cameras.
Yeah.
They'd give it to me, and I would do everything else, basically. The biggest difference that happened between, I guess, 2010 to now is that I can finish everything with any camera, front to back, after it's shot. Back then, there were different people for different things, right? So they would give me the footage, I would edit it, and then I would have to send the sound to a sound mixer. He would mix it, master it. I'd have to send the footage to a colorist, and he would go scene by scene, and he would have to color correct everything. He would give it back to me, and I'd have to rebuild it with the correct color corrected stuff. I'd have to get the sound from the sound guy, rebuild that, and then I'd have to master it, right? Because it didn't. It's not like I just upload it on YouTube today. Like I don't just put the YouTube preset and and it goes off. I had each TV station had different specs, and so I had to, depending on the TV station, make this version for that one, this version with that spec, this version with that spec, this version with that spec, and I have to send them all off. Yeah, and sometimes it was, okay, yeah, we accept it by FTP, just upload it to our server, and then other times it's no, it has to go on tape. Give us a digibeta. So I'd have to set up the timeline to be able to record on an actual tape, and then FedEx the tape to the TV station. It was wild. It was wild. Different time. Different times.
It sounds expensive to me.
It's very expensive. Yeah.
Because there was so many different people with their hands in it. So did the process with digital streamline once that came about? Or?
Yeah. It made a lot of stuff very, very easy. Yeah. Very easy. But I would say that it didn't become democratized, for anybody with a laptop until like 2016, 2017.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but there's still the craft, the art of like even the sound guy or the lighting guy or
absolutely,
whatever.
Yeah.
Being able to do that with all the years of experience of doing it the old way, and then being able to like use the new product, which is different. That's so similar. John has to send CAD files in different formats to people. Sometimes they want a different format or with different dimensions, and so he has to send them to them in a different file.
Yeah.
But with film, I couldn't imagine. I mean, even recording what we're recording is, we're 16 minutes into this. This would take 3 days to upload the old way.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, sending it even now, putting it on the hard drive takes so much time. I mean, yeah. I mean,
I can't imagine.
A lot of the process is still the same if you go very, very, very high end, right?
Yeah.
If you go into movies or if you go into high end productions, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, all these, it's almost the same, only because you find a niche and then you become an expert at that niche, right?
Yeah.
And so a colorist still exists today, right? You get like Company 3, which is one of the best coloring houses in the States. They still have master colorists, right?
Yeah.
And they'll have daily work because films don't want the editor to deal with the color. It's not your problem, right?
Yeah.
I guess the same thing can apply to construction, right?
Sorry.
You know, somebody in construction, you know, the handyman who can
Yeah.
do the whole thing from front to back. But really, if you want a like awesome and amazing product,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're gonna hire the master plumber, or you're gonna hire, you know,
The right team, so that way you're not having to
Yeah,
manage
just the floor guy that
'cause
you want.
the handy guy will get it done. It'll look great, but it's going to take him a century
Yeah.
that too.
to
Yeah,
get
for
it done
sure.
because he's doing it, himself a stage at a time. Where you have different people coming in different teams. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's understandable. God, it was a process. I mean, even watching you move cameras around and stuff and change the lighting and things, and you know, um,
Yeah, a
I
lot of
mean, it
that
was
stuff.
2 days, right? But it was like intense.
Yeah. And so that's something that we can now do as of like 3 or 4 years ago.
Hmm.
I can solo man band it.
Yeah,
Solo man band.
yeah,
S-
the solo man band. Yeah.
Solo man band it. Um,
One man band.
one man
One man
band. There you go.
band.
That's better. That's
Good
better.
job.
I can one man band.
Yeah.
But it really we weren't able to do that more than 4 years ago because lighting has changed so much in 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
LEDs have completely changed the game, right? And it's brought the weight down
Oh,
of
yeah.
lighting equipment considerably, right? I can
Yeah.
fly lighting now
Yeah.
with it being not being crazy expensive. But yeah, during our whole experience of recording our gig, um, it was 2 days, and Nicole was directing it
Yeah.
for the most part. But
Yeah.
it's not very hard.
Hmm.
I would say it's not anyone can do it, right?
Yeah.
But it definitely takes some experience to kind of understand or know what you want. And I feel like I'm very fortunate because my career started with brands and branding,
Hmm.
and that's how I understand how to get the most out of a brand
Hmm.
on film.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my challenge now is the whole social media thing, right? I feel like I'm a dinosaur
Gosh.
with all the social media. It's like I don't know how the kids do it nowadays, right? But
Yeah.
that's a different topic.
I know, man. That's a whole different animal, like you said. But I mean, so do you cover, you know, all 50 states? I mean, do you? Because your company is based out of Florida, right?
So we're in Florida, yeah.
Yeah.
Burgos Stone Productions, Mike Burgos. I have a partner, Chris Stone.
Yeah.
Chris Stone does everything remote. He does live streaming. He does remote podcasts. He does on-site podcasts. He does all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And then I do a lot of the on-site camera work or production or things like that. But
Okay.
it's for the not necessarily lower budget in terms of production scale, right? Because
Yeah.
you can get into huge budgets, but I can do something relatively 90% of the way for a smaller budget,
Okay.
relatively.
Okay. So yeah. So you can either come out to all 50 states. I'm sure.
Yes.
Probably even Canada,
Yes.
maybe depending.
Sure. Yeah.
And then do a production, or they can come to you guys and do a podcast in your studio or something, or video
Correct.
in your
Yes.
yeah. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I mean, I know ours were done on site and stuff, but I mean, it worked. I mean, because I mean, we're not here. Right.
So I've got a question.
Yeah.
When I finished the video and I sent it over, right? I went through a couple revisions between
Yeah.
Transcendental and I.
Sure.
But once you saw it, what'd you guys think?
I couldn't believe it was us.
I know.
Honest opinion. We watched it like, I don't know, 12 times.
The first 100 views was us.
First 100, right? Erica knows. We were like, play it again, play it. And then my favorite part, which is what I want to get from you, was was it considered animation with the compass and then the little tick, tick, ticks?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want that to be like our McDonald's arches.
Yeah.
Our Nike check mark,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. I love that. And I would turn it up super loud so that I could hear
Yeah.
that part. So that, and we just would listen to the whole thing and we're like, wow, I can't believe, the way it.
Did you think it would look like that
No.
after I
No.
shot it? Like you saw the
No.
whole the
No,
whole,
I know. Well, I know, and our attitudes towards the end of the day.
Oh my gosh.
Like, hurry up! I got to mic up again. Why can't
Yeah.
I just leave it on?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. No, I didn't. I didn't. Some of the questions you guys were asking, and I know there's like hours of video, and then it's down to like
3
3 or 4
minutes,
minutes or
yeah.
something.
it's like 4.5 minutes, something like
Yeah, and it's because you're asking us questions but you're not leading us because you're wanting us to answer honestly,
Yeah.
right? So you can get that vibe from us, you know, true, real. And I get that. And at the first we're just, we're all
I'm
like,
still leading you.
we're
It's
like,
just I'm
yeah,
trying not to.
yeah. But it's funny
I'm
because
not
you're,
trying to peel
yeah,
an answer from you. I'm just trying to
no,
get you
no,
to.
I know, and it's cool because you would ask us, and at the beginning we're all like, "Oh, we're on camera." It's like when we're making our social media things or something, we're
Oh
just
my
like relaxed and loose. I mean, we're usually having a good time or something, or we're just trying to be informative. But this was like different. We were wearing our nice company shirts.
All
I
starched.
had gotten a haircut even
Yeah.
because they had told me to
That's
get a
right.
haircut.
That's right.
I had to get a haircut.
I had to do multiple takes for things. That's something that
Yeah.
not everybody expects.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was like, okay, we're gonna walk up again.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna walk up again. Okay, this time you're gonna, just kind of like loosen up or something. Don't make it seem like you're walking up like,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
like a robot.
So
Yeah,
for the people who don't know, the reason I do something like that is very much something that I learned while I was editing, right?
yeah,
So we'll get into my story of how I went from editing to actual production and
yeah.
learning cameras and all that stuff. But one of the things is for people who start, right, who they get a
Hmm.
camera and they're like, oh, I'm going to learn how to make videos,
Yeah,
and they haven't edited before. They don't think a lot about they don't think about the actual content, like how much content you have, right?
yeah,
You have to have, there's a word, and I just forgot. It was on the tip of my tongue. You have to have enough footage
hmm,
to be able to be able to tell your story,
yeah,
right? Coverage, right?
yeah,
The amount of coverage that you want is, let's say you want to do a five-minute film, you're gonna have more than 3 hours worth of footage,
Wow.
right? Because the amount of coverage that you need
yeah. For
to be
that.
able to do it is substantial, right? You don't think about it, but you were walking to the front of a dental practice,
Yeah,
right? In mid construction. I think I did 4 or 5 takes of that.
yeah,
One was from the side, one was from behind, one was from the side, one was from the other side. One of them had you going inside the building.
hmm,
One of them was wider, one of them was closer.
hmm,
And so when I'm editing, um, when I start constructing the story, I think, okay, the arc of this story, I want him to start like somebody is going into a dental practice or someone's going to a construction site. Usually they leave the car and they're going,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But when I want someone to, I start from behind
hmm,
is because I don't want them to know who you are.
hmm,
It's like a question. Oh, why? Who are we following? Who is this person that we're
yeah,
following? Where is he going? Who is he going to shake whose hand? And then I turn to the other side. Oh, it's Tommy.
hmm,
If they know who you are. If they don't
yeah,
know, oh, who's this guy? What is 26L that he has on his hat or on
hmm,
his shirt? So all of that I tell specifically by the edits that I do,
yeah,
right? And I need the coverage that I capture with it to go along with it.
yeah, yeah. So that was my next question is like, how do you go about telling a story? I guess for us, it was way different than what you normally do, which is primarily now is for dental practices that, they're doing filming for their office and stuff like that. So do you work on a script way in advance for who the dentist is? Do you like research who this guy is and how you're going to tell a story?
It depends. If I go through an agency, like I work with Transcendental,
Sure.
I usually don't get that much prep
Okay.
beforehand, right? Because I don't speak directly to the doctor
Yeah.
or I don't speak directly to the practice. I usually
Hmm.
go through the agency and then I figure everything out kind of like when I get there.
Yeah.
However, if I work with a doctor specifically or if I work with a client or a company,
Hmm.
I try to figure out their vibe.
Hmm.
Music is really important to me. I went to school for music.
Yeah.
School's always been huge. Music has always been huge. It's very much a feeling for me. So figuring out the music is figuring out the vibe of a video,
Yeah.
right? It's like the emotional tie to the whole thing. And so depending on the actual practice, depending on the work culture, depending on how they talk to each other, depending on how, they interact with each other, that affects the music for me. That affects
Oh.
the edit for me. That affects so many things. And so I'll give you an example. I did a Feliciana Dental
Oh yeah,
in
I know him. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Dr. Diebold.
yeah, yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Baton Rouge. Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah,
Well,
exactly.
Francisville. Yeah,
Francisville,
yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. um I went there kind of blind,
Yeah.
but when I saw them and I started interacting, his wife is also a dentist. She's joining the practice.
Oh,
They're all
okay.
very sweet. They're kind. They're very family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the patients that came in, they talked about how they deal with such care and they're
Mm-hmm.
always things like that. When I go through my music search, I start trying to find inspirational kind of music. I try to find music with like more calm tones,
Mm-hmm.
right? And music with more of an arc, and then that music is actually where I start my edit. I can't start editing without music.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So I find the music first
Yeah.
and then I can build the edit. Hold on.
My
Would
God.
would you say that's something that you would relate to the amount of coverage that you're needing to get at times too? Because when you have more coverage like that, right, you're then kind of accounting for the story to change, or to take into account the adaptability of maybe the quality of scenes that you have, or say for instance someone like you're saying says something that for instance carries throughout the whole process, right? That amount of coverage that you're taking, you're accounting for the adaptability of the story, right?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you may not need it, right? Because sometimes you might have certain personalities or characteristics that end up kind of meshing more than expected, or sometimes less than expected, right? So it's so interesting hearing like design professionals and their process
Yeah. And
and
and now and I'll add to that a little bit. I'll usually go in. There's like a set amount of coverage that I like to have.
right.
Some of the there's some people who say you have to get the 7 shots for every scene, right? It's like
Yeah.
you get the wide, you get the medium, you
Yeah.
get the close up, you get the creative
I've
shot.
seen
You get
that
the
on YouTube.
yeah, it's like 7 different shots that you get per scene. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes if you do it for every single scene, it's too much footage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like let's be real, you shoot 7 shots for every scene for 50 scenes, you're looking at 350 clips
Oh my
per,
God.
and that's 50 scenes isn't that much, right? So you're looking at a ton of footage. You're just gonna be wasting a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
after. So I kind of know some situations need a lot of coverage, some situations don't need a lot of coverage, but coverage is really good when I choose music.
Mhm.
If I have a high impact or like very beat driven song that has more high energy, usually I'll do a lot more cuts. And if I'm doing a lot more cuts, I need more coverage, right? Because I'll have to go from back to the front, to the side, to the
Mm-hmm.
back, to the close up, to the back, to the wide, and if I have more coverage, I have the liberty to do all of that. If I only had 1 shot where I followed you from back
Yeah.
to the door, that's the only shot I have.
Mm-hmm.
I can't play around with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to do it for 10 seconds, like if I have this 10 seconds that I want to establish the introduction of your video, all I have is 1 shot,
Yeah.
and that's very hindering.
It's all about like your delivery too, right?
Yeah,
Because the delivery is matching your tempo or pace, or
exactly.
you have to change it up, and I think that's so cool.
Yeah,
And I think after the video was recorded and we did all that process and we were back home, I messaged you, man, because I was like,
that's right.
I love your vision that you had, because I could see it, right? And then yeah, and then the way that it turned out, it was just awesome.
That was
So
phenomenal.
I had to make sure that you knew, man, because I was a fan from day one.
I
And
appreciate
the
that.
way,
I
the
Yeah.
way
appreciate
that
that.
you broke down and took the time to, I guess, put your thoughts in a strategic way to record it, right? To then deliver the message that we didn't even know. How do you say it? Like we were
Could be delivered.
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
incapable
Yeah.
of having. So
Yeah.
it was really awesome the way that you broke it down strategically, like like the vision that we didn't even know
Yeah. Yeah.
could be
It was
made. So
cool.
it was very very
That
nice.
was they were I'm not gonna lie, they were intense but fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you normally is it normally a 2-day shoot for
So I can do a
offices?
dental practice in one day.
It's in one. So okay, so that was my next question. So ours was 2 days. It's 4.5 minutes. How long did it take you to edit that, roughly?
Am I gonna tell you the truth or am I gonna fib a little bit here?
I don't know. It doesn't. I'm just wondering.
We don't
because-
know. We
I'm
don't
just
know.
So
We
wondering
wouldn't
because
know if you're fibbing or not.
I don't know,
Right.
because I'm gonna
Well,
ask you
my
how long
turnaround.
is-
Okay, so my turnaround time for Transcendental is 4 weeks, right?
Okay.
But it doesn't take me 4 weeks to edit it,
Yeah.
right? For me, I can do the whole thing if I really had like full concentration, which I can't. Like I actually have like slight ADHD. I don't know if you guys know that, but
yeah.
yeah, I can't sit down and do that. But if I were able to,
Yeah.
I can do it all in one day. I can do it
Okay.
in
a
about
day.
8 to 10 hours.
Oh
Yes,
wow.
and that's exactly. I was just trying to get like numbers because
Yeah.
that's exactly what we're always asked about. Like, what normally amount does it take and how long is
For a
blah, blah,
floor
blah.
plan or yeah.
Yeah.
We're always asked those kind of questions, and so normally they're going to ask the kind of question like like a day. Well, how long does that take? Well, that's probably 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of video because, like you said, you get so many shots, and you're trying to tell a story where you have to see which was the better shot, which because it's like us, right? We record things. Sometimes the freaking sound doesn't work or
Yeah.
whatever, or the camera turns off, and and then we have to go around it. Or I think we recorded one podcast and it was like numbers and stuff all over the camera, all over John's. It was all over John's camera, So there's those kind of things. But I was just kind of like an idea, like roughly. I know it takes long because
Well,
Erica works long.
Sure,
editing
sure.
stuff.
But you've also got to take the context with it too. I shot it, so I
Yeah.
know I already come into the editing process
Yeah.
kind of knowing what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If somebody else were to shoot it and then I have to create a story out of it, it would take me probably double
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Makes
I
sense.
I was there for the interviews, so I kind of know what you were saying. So I kind of know what the structure of the story is going to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of the interview too, I've actually changed my process a little bit since we've done our video.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole was directing, so she was asking the questions.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to interview, doing a lot of the interviewing before we even shoot.
Mhm.
So then I know, and the doctor knows specifically how we want to build a video. So I'll give you an example. At the beginning, we kind of improvised everything. When I say improvise, it's like we know what we're gonna ask, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like on the spot,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, oh, what's your company? What does your company do? This and this. I don't know. Tell me a specific situation, a problem that you've had with a dental practice, right? And so you can tell me, oh, there was a leak in this specific dental practice. We had to
Yeah.
come back 6 weeks later. Whatever. But those are things now that I ask beforehand, so that we can, because a lot of this is the basics of storytelling
Yeah.
that's been around for thousands and thousands of years, right?
Mhm.
You have the hook at the
Mhm.
beginning, then you have the subject, and then you have the payoff,
Mhm.
right? And so the hook is always that one thing of how do you get it interesting enough so that they continue watching. The
Mhm.
subject is just everything that you want to say to the audience, and then the payoff is in a dental practice specific situation is the patients giving the audience the affirmation that this dental practice is where you want to go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. This is the spot. Yeah.
Exactly. So now I've changed it up a little bit where it's if I talk to a dental practice or I talk to a doctor, I try to find out these details beforehand
Yeah.
because sometimes they don't even remember or they don't think it's a problem, right?
Mhm.
Like, give me an example of your most challenging case, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know,"
Yeah.
But if we're on set, it's gonna take time,
Yeah.
and then they won't remember, and then we only interview for like 15 minutes,
Yeah.
and then once that time is done, it's done,
Mhm.
and then they'll email me 3 days later. Oh man, I actually had the best story, and I forgot to tell you, and da da da. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So you give it
So
to them beforehand.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to bring that beforehand, so that they know
Yeah.
what they want to say.
That makes sense. A list of stuff beforehand. I mean, it. I mean, it only makes sense, right?
Right, so that you won't be surprised, or what you can
Well,
talk
yeah,
about.
because you're like thinking back.
I'm
and you're
I'm gonna
like,
throw you curveballs anyway because
Yeah, you
sometimes I
are.
like the originality or I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the spontaneity of an answer,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I need the meat of the story, which is usually like
Mhm. Mhm.
hook, which is conflict, subject, payoff, right?
Yeah.
And so I need to find those before I even start the the whole
Yeah.
story.
That makes perfect sense. You're also reducing your timeline too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Overall.
yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
even if it's just by a few hours or even like, a couple of days, it's still worth
Yeah.
it.
Oh, and another thing that I was gonna say too, that even though it might take me 8 to 10 hours, it never happens like that because I always sleep on stuff.
Yeah.
I'll make an edit, and I'll see the edit, and then I'll look at it the next day,
Mhm.
and I actually don't like what this feels like the next day. And then the third day, I actually liked a piece of the first edit, and I like a piece of the second edit, and
Floor
so
plans, John. Floor plans.
yeah, yeah.
Revisions.
I'll
Yeah.
have 7 edits before I give the first one to Nicole, and then Nicole will give me
Yeah.
Wow.
edits, or
Wow.
Some days I'll go to sleep thinking about how I would change it, right? But some days I realize that I don't get the best sleep that way. But then there's other days where I wake up and it's just like I know exactly what I'm going to do now, and then you're able to get past that. I mean, there's always blocks sometimes,
yeah,
whether it's making a decision on design elements or like storytelling, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
there's always pivots and stuff, and you have to be careful
Yeah.
with that sometimes because
Oh, I know.
even myself, I can go down a rabbit hole really quick.
oh for
Yeah.
sure.
So,
It's a reminder, right? It's not what I want; it's what the doctor wants.
John, are you?
I always
are
have
you-
to remind him that.
John, you're not sitting in that chair. That's what
Yeah.
they want. I explained to them why it's a bad idea or why it's not usually done, but it's their decision.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
and
the
he
ones that
does
are going to be there every day.
Yeah, they do
exactly.
that. But
Exactly.
so
I'm a servant. I serve.
yeah, right.
I serve.
That's funny. We all serve, right? So so okay. So the next question is a little loaded, and it's on ROI.
Yeah,
So like for us, it took us a bit, a couple of years or so to save up the money for the actual video, but we know we need to do it. Nicole been telling us about it for a while. We finally got enough ducks saved up, from every job to be able to do it, which we're glad we did it. The ROI worked out for us well. Do you ever get asked by dentists like, hey, if I do this video, I mean, do I really need to do video?
Yeah,
Can I do social media stuff?
yeah. I get that question all the time, right? Because relatively,
Yeah.
a one man band production like this is actually really cheap,
Mhm.
right? If you start looking into a 3-man team, which
Yeah.
is very basic also, with some lighting, with some
Mhm.
cameras and this or that, you're looking north of, from production cost standpoint, not even going through a marketing agency,
Yeah.
you're looking at 10,000
Yeah.
minimum, right?
Mhm.
So to be able to do one man, specifically from a one man person, depending on how many days, it's relatively cheap to be able to do it. Right now, the challenge is always, you still have to. I don't want to seem like an asshole, right? But you still have to be interesting, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't matter
yeah.
how it doesn't matter how.
It took a minute to sink in, but yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter like how beautiful something. I mean, you can make a story out of anything, but it's always like when we had our production.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is gonna be so easy because I think you guys are so interesting, right? You guys have so many stories, and you guys have
Yeah.
like, there's so much for us to work with that
Mhm.
for sure it's definitely gonna be worth it, because in order to grab the essence of you guys and to make it a video,
Yeah.
it's easier for your audience to digest it, right?
Mhm.
You were talking to me a bit about this a little earlier, is that you introduce yourself to someone and they're asking, oh, what do you do? And you have a conversation or something. And then when you're following up with them, you're like, look, this is a video that shows us and it shows other doctors that we've worked with. It gives credibility, right?
Yeah.
Because there's my favorite line in your video is, I've saved a doctor up to $1 million,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I
something
can say that's 1.2 now.
1.2.
Another job. Yeah. We just got another job. So
But that's crazy,
Yeah.
right? You won't
Yeah.
remember that when you're talking to each
No.
individual
No.
doctor, right?
I didn't remember that.
Right? Like you'll
Mm.
talk to, even when you're, you were on the floor networking event, or
Yeah, yeah.
you
No.
go to you go to Costa's, Mark Costa's,
Yeah, Mark Costas event. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't.
if you talk to a doctor, you don't go up to him and like, yeah, I saved
Yeah.
somebody $1.2 million.
Yeah,
Like
no.
that's not.
Yeah.
But it's a really impactful statement if
Yeah.
a doctor watches it and
Yeah.
wait, he saved you how much
Yeah.
money? Wait, how much does it cost
Yeah.
to build one of these?
right?
Well, yeah,
Right?
ground up. It's expensive.
Ground up, even in a TI, it's expensive now.
Yeah, now it
I mean,
is.
they're expensive. So yeah, I mean, and when I realized that, I was like, oh wow, I hadn't even thought. And then even when some of the docs on those testimonials had said how much I saved them, I was like, you're in the thick of it. I'm in
Yeah.
the middle of it, man. So I'm in the fog. I'm like doing the day to day and stuff, and I don't remember that kind of stuff. I'm not tracking that. And I
Yeah.
know some people do. Some of the bigger companies do. Some of the bigger startup companies will track all that and use all that. But I don't. Yeah, we don't. We
It's
don't
even more
track
important
that.
because you
Yeah,
guys are small too, right?
yeah,
Like you don't have a
yeah.
sales team that's
No,
No.
helping you guys, right? So
no.
this is your sales team.
This is
Yeah.
it's us. I mean, it's us that talks to you initially. It's us that comes out and makes the visits. One of the three of us. You
So
know,
the ROI for you guys for this video is huge.
oh,
Then.
it's big. It's big, and yeah, and it's been well. So especially after the Costas event, I mean, that's when we started getting a lot of people call us, and we've been able to help them and save them money.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So it's been really beneficial for us. So yeah, I mean, it was good for us. The ROI was good. So let's talk gear.
Yeah.
Let's talk gear. So you bring all your gear with you,
Yeah.
and over the year, has your gear evolved? Because I mean, look at the. I mean, we went from like one of these. Is this a DSLR camera?
Yeah, these are DSLRs.
Okay, so we went from one of those we're using all the time to now we use a Pocket 3 camera. Either we use it
Yeah.
or Erica uses it because it's for us. We're not shooting commercials or anything. We call our video you shot for us a commercial.
Yeah.
We're gonna send you a short
Yeah.
commercial. It's gonna go on YouTube. We tell them that because we think it's a commercial.
Yeah.
It's not like
Technically.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I call it a short film.
yeah.
Short film.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I need
I
to
guess
change
we
it.
could call it that short.
It's like a
Change it.
short documentary.
Yeah.
Right,
Right?
right.
I guess we call it. We should
I
probably
think
call
that's
it.
We
why
should
it
change
turned
it.
out so good.
Short film.
What's up?
I think that's why it turned out really well because
Yeah.
it was like that kind of that documentary kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
aspect
yeah.
to
Yeah.
it,
So you're a Sony guy, I see, because your Sony camera that you have there.
This lends itself well to the other question that we were going to answer.
Yeah.
How did I start even
Well, yeah,
shooting
that
on
was
videos?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe 12, 13 years ago, I was editing. I was doing a bunch of post production, and
Yeah.
I met my wife, and one of the things she wanted to do was get into photography.
Yeah.
So I bought her a Nikon. And then I told her, I'm like, hey, this is awesome. Let's go to Tropical Fairchild, which is like a garden, right?
Yeah.
Let's take pictures of plants and let's take pictures. And we would go and she would just be like, I'm like, what's wrong? Why aren't you taking pictures? And she's like, I need to take pictures of people. I hate taking pictures of flowers or this or landscapes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I want to take pictures of people. So that evolved into her becoming a wedding photographer.
Oh yeah.
And she blew up. She was actually on Brides magazine. She
Oh,
was on a
wow.
bunch of blogs. We were going all around the U.S. We were going to the Cayman Islands. We were going to like a
Wow.
bunch of like.
Yeah.
They were flying us all over the place. We shot over 100 weddings, and so
Dang.
I had to learn how to take pictures. Right.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to physically take pictures with a camera,
Yeah.
and taking pictures and shooting videos are very similar.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, you have to learn the same settings.
Yeah.
You have to learn, composition. You
Mhm.
have to learn lighting,
What was it?
you ha-
ISO, aperture,
and
and something else. There's three, I think.
shutter speed.
Shutter speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
The triangle.
Buddy's gonna be mad.
The
Like,
triangle.
you didn't remember, damn it. Buddy's he didn't remember. I told you. He sent me the link. Yeah.
That's funny. So I had to learn photography, right?
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is we shot a ton of weddings. She ended up transitioning out of Nikon. She went to Canon.
Yeah.
And so our first DSLR was a Canon DSLR was a 5D Mark II.
Okay.
And the 5D Mark II was huge, a huge leap because you can now shoot 1080p video in 24 frames and 30 frames per second. 1080p. Before
Yeah.
it was always 720 and it looked like shit. right?
Yeah. Yeah.
5D Mark II was the first full frame camera. Full frame is great because you get a lot of bokeh, which is the blurring that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So full frame camera shoots 1080p, 24 frames a second. 24 frames means it's more cinematic.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 24 frames, full frame, Canon, and it's on a small little tiny camera
Yeah.
that cost $3,000 back in the day,
Wow.
right? So that was the beginning of me. Hey, I shoot weddings all the time. I could probably do a kick-ass video,
Yeah.
right? I know how to edit the video.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do I need? I need a tripod. Okay, I got a tripod. I want to get a slider. I really like sliding at the time. So I got this huge ass slider. I hate it now. I hate it. It's so heavy. But one of my very, very first wedding that I did, I brought this huge ass tripod, a huge slider, and I was doing a bunch of slide gigs. I only had 2 batteries, which is wild.
Wow.
I don't know how I did it. This wedding
Yeah.
was like out of nowhere. I did this, but it was a gorgeous wedding. I look at it now and I think, oh my god, that's awful. But
Yeah.
obviously it's because now I've done over like 50 wedding videos,
Yeah.
90 wedding videos. Anyway,
Dang.
yeah. And
Wow.
so I started doing wedding videos because my wife was a wedding photographer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you
And
started
so
doing video.
yeah, so I kind of piggybacked off of her. I was still doing all these commercials and stuff. That was kind of like my bread and butter. And then every once in a while I'll do a wedding video.
Mm-hmm.
And so um, that really helped me out too, because I know that like the wedding industry is a weird stigma. Like it's like, oh, you do wedding videos,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I think the same thing too, because I come from commercials and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh god, I did wedding videos, but it's actually a lot harder than people think
Yeah.
to do it right or to do it good,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a live event.
Yeah.
It only happens once.
Yeah.
They only walk down the aisle once.
Mhm.
They only have that first kiss once. So how do you deal with all these situations when they only happen once?
Yeah.
And I had a team, right? Like I had an audio guy with me and a second camera shooter. So it's like I had to have multiple camera angles. I had to have a guy doing audios to make sure the
Wow,
audio was always
yeah.
good and all that kind of. So it was a little different, but dealing with that experience,
Yeah.
everything else is cake.
Wow.
Everything
That's
else, like every other kind of like production, it's child's play. Like it's not a big deal,
Oh, okay.
right? Oh, we're running short of time. We'll figure it out. It's not a big deal,
Yeah.
right? Because we have the options, the ability to be able to do multiple takes or do this or do that.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was on a wedding, it's like, oh, the sun sets in 13 minutes. If you didn't get the shots that you wanted, you can no longer do any shots because they're not going to do a wedding tomorrow.
Yeah. No.
Right, we
All the
can't
guests aren't
redo
going
it
to come
tomorrow.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We. So Veronica's sister owns a flower shop, and periodically she'll need help for setting up and gigs and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So she needed help for this big wedding down on the east side of town. So we went to help her, and we're helping her. Get. I think Erica was there too, right?
Mhm.
And we were getting all this stuff done, right? We're getting everything all set up with the flowers and helping her put stuff out. I just, they say put all of these kind of flowers on these tables. I'm like, okay, I got that. So I just go get the same flower and put them on the table.
Yeah.
And then this truck pulls up, big old like U-Haul truck that's painted like white, just all white. Pulls up all these guys. I guess that's a film thing. Everybody has to dress in black.
Yeah.
So they're all
I
in
hate it.
black.
I don't do that.
Yeah, they're all in black. They get off. There's like probably 8 to 10 guys in this big U-Haul truck. They start pulling out cameras. They start running out gear.
They had the AC unit. That's where we're like, this truck is weird. It had an AC
Oh,
unit
it
on
had
top
it
of.
had an AC
Yeah.
unit on top of the van that was running because it was
Of the
keeping the
U-Haul.
equipment
Yeah.
cool in there. And then they started pulling out their cameras and stuff. Then they had, like you said, audio guys because now
Yeah.
we could tell what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were looking at their cameras.
That's so extra. I give
Yeah.
them props, but that's
Yeah.
so too over the top for me.
There was like there was at least 8 to 10 of them, and they were all rolling out hard cases with
And they had
gear
that big
and
old
stuff.
gimbal that goes
Where it's
over
like
you
on
or
a- it's like
whatever.
on a
It's like
wire.
a backpack.
an easy rig.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going over the
Mhm.
wire.
Yeah.
They're holding
I want to
it.
get one.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool, but the camera looked insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, oh, I don't know if Erica can carry that. She might fall over.
Well, that's the easy rig. It actually
Yeah.
helps. It's,
Wow. Balance you.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a little too extra for me, only because like that's a legit business.
Well,
like
that's probably what they did.
and
Mhm.
they're charging like $20,000
Oh,
to do
yeah.
that.
I believe
right?
it.
I
You
can
know?
see that.
And that's cool, but
They all had the little mics, the little.
yeah,
They had those Hollywood or
Hollyland.
Hollyland,
Yeah.
the Hollyland ones.
So he would bring it down and.
He'd
I
bring it
think I
down.
know who you're talking about, by the way. I think I know the wedding vendor that you're talking about. I've seen
Probably
his stuff
so.
on,
They're-
on YouTube.
And they were here in San Antonio. I don't know if they're from San Antonio or they're from Austin because they.
I think
usually
it might
come
be
from-
Austin.
Yeah, they came down deep, and I know it had to be expensive because the flowers were expensive.
Just the flowers
Yeah.
alone were like
Yeah.
20 grand.
Flowers
so,
are wild. Yeah.
So then I'm expecting that this whole production and video, and then they were like controlling, like, don't move, don't walk over here, don't. And there's all like guys with like 4 different cameras filming everybody. I'm like, dude, is this like a freaking reality show? I'm like,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's too much for me, man.
Yeah.
it was. I wanted to get out of there because I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, man, these bridesmaids are getting
It's
on my nerves,
wild,
man.
yeah. I get it though. Like if you have a lot, I mean,
If you have the
if
money
you have a
for
lot
it.
of family or if you have a lot of money
Yeah.
and you really, really want to capture your wedding, like you can't go wrong doing something like that,
I
right?
guess, but I mean, I'm not. I hardly ever look at my wedding photos.
We don't look at them.
We didn't have a videographer.
No.
We had little zip cameras.
Yeah, the
little zip-
throwaway ones,
Yep.
the disposable
Mhm.
at each table,
Mhm.
and everybody just made sure and left it after.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's
we
how
had those, and every so often we'll look back at them or something. Typically, when somebody
It's
passes
been
away,
10
we're like, "Oh
years.
my god, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we filmed them." But we don't really ever. And so, and I don't know.
I still
who-
haven't edited my wedding video.
You
Well,
see, and how long have you been married?
11 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife still nags me, I think, once a week.
About the
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Video.
Dude, you
Yeah,
better
to-
get on
to
it.
edit.
Does it pay to work at home? Remember,
No, I know.
That's why everything's broken at home. Everything's not broken at home.
No.
Everything works.
But yeah, that's
And
that's
it's
kinda,
finished.
that's kind of like my history, and so I was a big Canon user. We had Canon
Yeah.
5D Mark III's, and if I would have kept doing that, like if we had decided that we were gonna legit like
Mm-hmm.
business up hard in the wedding industry, I would have probably kept going into the Canon.
Yeah.
I kept going Canon. But what ended up happening is, COVID happened,
Yeah.
and the weddings drop off a cliff, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
my wife kind of stopped doing weddings,
Okay.
and then we had our third kid, and so she was taking care of our third kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided that I wanted to shoot 4K, and Canon still hadn't like done their 4K thing yet. They
Yeah.
hadn't come out with the R5 yet, and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go actually into Panasonic. So I bought a Panasonic GH5, and their cameras were pretty cool. I was doing a lot of corporate work, and so
Yeah.
I was using that Panasonic for corporate work.
Yeah.
And then my biggest challenge with the Panasonic was the lack of autofocus. A lot of
Oh.
corporate work that I was doing was a lot of talking head,
Yeah.
right? And so if they were asking me to do two cameras, I had to make sure that the focus was good, but I could only stand behind one camera,
Oh man.
right? So the other one, I'm just, setting it and praying when I
Yeah.
get to my editor that
Yeah.
it's in focus. And there were times when it wasn't, And so
Wow.
if they decide to, they're adjusting their chair
Yeah. They're moving around.
out of focus.
Yeah.
Dang.
So it
Yeah.
sucks. And so
Yeah.
what ended up happening, I think 3 years ago, I bought this one, the A7 IV.
A74. Boy, I've heard about that one on YouTube a lot.
This
Is it-
is a
what is it,
great
a
hybrid.
Panasonic?
No, this is a
That's Sony.
Sony.
That's
so
Sony.
this is a
Yeah.
great hybrid camera.
Yeah.
I used to not like Sony because I didn't like their colors, but
Yeah.
I think with the A7 III they switched their color science, and it looks pretty good. But
I've
this
heard
one
about that
is
camera a lot.
kick ass. This
Yeah.
is a great hybrid camera. So I take pictures with this.
Mm-hmm.
So at a dental practice, I actually take pictures and I shoot video.
Oh
Wow.
wow.
So I do both. So
Yeah.
so dental practice, if they call me to come into a dental practice, I'll actually do both. I'll shoot your brand video and I'll take all your pictures that you need for all of your marketing needs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's because
That's
I have this
handy.
one.
Well, yeah, because you can do it both.
I can do them both with this one, exactly.
Yeah.
But this one, the reason I switched to it is because of the autofocus. So
It keeps up.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is. I can set it and I can legit forget it,
Yeah.
and it will hold focus.
Does
Set
your
it
wife
and
still
forget it.
use Canon?
She does.
Does she still shoot wedding videography?
She does. Not as much anymore,
'cause of the
but
babies. Yeah.
yeah. I think we're gonna probably get back into it now. But
Yeah.
I mean, our fourth child was born a year ago, right? So
Yeah.
he was still
Yeah.
tiny.
Yeah.
We moved from Miami to Orlando, and so we didn't really have we don't have a network of
Yeah.
people in Orlando, so it's like we were relying on each other a lot. So it's
Yeah.
like all of those hurdles were finally like overcoming them,
Yeah.
and she's gonna get back into
Yeah.
shooting more weddings and stuff.
And eventually the kids get a little older and then they're in school, it's school time and stuff. So
Exact-
then it's, yeah. No,
Exactly.
yeah. We don't have kids. We got fur babies, but
Fur babies.
we got nephews, nieces.
I'm telling
we got
you, we didn't have to
great
add
nephews,
anything.
Great nieces. I mean, we have a lot. We're the funkle and the fun aunt,
Yep.
typically.
Funkle and Fant.
And vent.
Fant.
Fun uncle and fun aunt.
John, how many kids do you have, John? I forgot.
I got one dog.
Just throw that out there, yeah. So what airline do you fly?
All of them.
All of them.
I
Oh,
use
wow, you're not
I
loyal.
use Capital One Travel because it
Oh,
gives me
okay.
5% back on
Oh.
all
yeah,
on all
like
travel.
the commercial. Okay,
So I go to travel.capitalone.com and I book whatever gets me there, and I
cool.
get 5% back.
Oh,
I've been thinking about signing up for American Airlines
Yeah.
just to get the Barclays card
yeah,
because I always check in. I always check in my lighting. Right, I have this
Yeah.
big hard box with my lighting.
It's one bag, free bag,
Free
chicken.
first bag is free,
Yep.
and it's $40 each way. So
Yeah.
it might save me $80 each.
Well, you would rack up the loyalty points quick because
Yeah.
we fly American, and
We used to.
since we still do periodically. Like
But, yeah.
we more normally travel by van, as you know.
Yeah.
But when we do have to travel, or John has to travel, or even Eric or whatever, or we have to travel sometimes, we'll do American. And we build loyalty points pretty fast. I mean, there was one time we were both executive platinum for years.
Wow.
Years. I mean, a couple million miles that we racked up in 15 years or so.
Did
and
you use them
her a
all?
million. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, first
Yeah,
class
we used
to Hawaii.
We
Nice.
used them. We gave them to family
Yeah.
members. They
Oh,
would
that's
take
great.
them or whatever.
Yeah.
They would use them all. I
Did
mean,
John get any?
John.
That was before
John.
my
I think
time.
we did have John. I think we did send
We might
John.
have used some points.
Every
for
so
John.
often we'd go someplace, and if he would bring them, we would use points, and we'd
Yeah.
just pay the tax like $11.
Sure,
Or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So I think we still have like 30 or 130.
I have like 56,000. I don't have very much.
Yeah, but
Because we really, I can count how many times we fly a year now, and it's right now we've only done it once or twice.
yeah, we're getting ready to have to fly to Canada, go look at this office that's got those 5 containers are turned into the practice expansion. So he's got a small practice now, and he's expanded, but he wants to use containers out of Canada. So we have to go over there
That's
and
so cool.
inspect. Yeah, I'm hoping to get some good video and stuff from that for YouTube. But yeah, it's pretty neat. But I mean, I can imagine the stories you tell. So let's see, how did you get into the dental industry?
Oh, that's funny. And this is hilarious because I actually didn't go to a dentist for like 5 or 6 years.
I'm not the only one.
right?
He hates them.
Yeah, like I'm smiling behind my little thing
That's
here.
so funny. So COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember, like, do you have the memory of like when COVID like really happened?
Oh yeah.
Where
Oh.
was that? Where
Yeah,
was that?
It was March. We were at a concert in we were at a concert in Buckhead,
Buckhead in Atlanta,
Georgia, in Buckhead, and we were there, and we hear it on the news stuff, and we were like around all these people, and we're like, maybe this COVID thing maybe something's going on, But the music was so good, the drinks were flowing. I think we listened to 6 or 7 songs, and we're like, God, man, it was a Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty cover band.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
The
And they
place
dressed like them, everything.
They
it
looked.
was
I thought,
packed.
dude, I know he's dead, but God, dog, that guy looks like him. And then even the Fleetwood Mac
Yeah,
people looked
perfect.
like the people from
Like,
Fleetwood Mac.
Identical.
And so it was, I don't know what, like, how many people? 50,000, 20, maybe 20, 30,000 people. It was
No, in that place?
and it's
No,
it's
no.
a theater. It's
it
a
was
theater.
a theater, but it was standing room. So
Well,
I'd say about 2,000-3,000 people.
no way. There was way more than that.
Really?
It was
Shoot.
packed.
It was packed.
It was Buckhead Theater. Look up the capacity. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it was big. It was big. There was people standing there.
Yeah,
there was
we were
like
all crammed.
we were crammed in there, and
During COVID.
Well, it was
it
March.
Was, it was March.
Well,
There was
It
like
was
speculation.
March 20th or something.
Oh, that's deep into it.
it
though.
is.
It
Because
was.
my story starts at the beginning of March.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, we're already in the 20th, and
Yeah.
we're like 6, 7 songs. We're like, Veronica's like, you know what? We probably should go. She was still nursing at the time.
Yep.
And so she's like, you know what? We better go. I'm like, what? I'm like, I just drink.
Not nursing a kid, but I was a nurse.
Yeah, you were a
She was
nurse. That's
still
right.
doing
You told me about that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I was like drinking, whiskey, and I was like, okay, well, let's go. I guess I'm taking medicine.
Yeah.
So we left, and then after we left, I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. We probably should have left. And then we got home, and boom,
The world
Everything
just
shut down.
Shut down.
dude. And we were still traveling because the work continued.
Oh, yeah.
Because, people still had
Yeah, of
loans,
course.
still billing
We
off.
were in a 737, and I can count there was 11 people, including the crew.
We
Yeah.
felt like we're flying private.
Oh man,
That
we
must
were
have been amazing.
It was.
I
It
love getting
was.
into an airplane and the seats are empty. and I'm just,
Everything, and even the airport was empty.
Roads
It was
were empty.
Crazy.
fantastic. It was
The-
the best thing.
It was the only problem was that there was no
Serving of
food
anything.
open.
Yeah.
There was no service, so you
Yeah.
had to have your own snacks. you couldn't really buy much at the airport because even those were closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even the hotels we'd go, the restaurants were closed at the hotels, so you would only get like fast food and stuff.
Yeah.
But we would get upgraded to like the suites. And we're like, oh man, somebody
Yeah.
better
The
clean
seventh
this room.
floor,
Yeah.
and I mean, corner suites.
Corner
It was
suites.
amazing.
So you got into it like during COVID?
So what happened was, it was like early March, almost to mid March, because it was spring break for the kids.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
I remember specifically, I was in the car with my wife and my kids, 2 kids at the time, and I get a phone call from the executive producer of the production company that I was working at.
Yeah.
And the agreement with the production company was like, I was on a stipend, and then if we did any big projects, I get paid extra for the big projects and stuff like that. But she calls me and she goes, "Hey,
Oh,
the production gigs that I have are all canceled. I have
Dang.
no production. All of them got canceled. I can't pay you
Oh, wow.
anymore." And that was like a decent chunk of my,
Yeah,
my
your
cash flow
income,
at the time,
yeah.
right? And I was in the car. We were going on vacation to Disney World.
Dang.
Yeah. And I got that call, and I looked at Michelle and I'm like, I don't have a job and we're going on vacation.
Wow.
Well, like my main gig, right?
Yeah.
And we went on vacation. We had fun, and we came
Yeah, yeah.
back, and the world kind of just stopped.
Yeah.
But when the world stopped for COVID, that means everybody was home.
Mhm.
And if everybody's home, how do you learn?
Yeah.
You learn online. But if you're not reading, what are you doing instead? You're watching a video,
Yeah.
and that's my job. So I became like hot commodity at that
Yeah.
point. So I actually decided to take like 2 or 3 weeks off, and I remember it was my birthday when I started freaking out. My birthday is April 5th.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So I took 3 weeks off because on my birthday, I looked at Michelle and I'm like, we thought it was going to be like a week, right?
Yeah.
Everybody thought, oh, this COVID thing's going to be
Yeah.
like 2 weeks, whatever. It's not a big deal, right?
Everybody has to go. Yeah.
Yeah, well, everything's going to go back to normal. Well, my birthday, 3 weeks later, everything was still shut down.
Yeah.
And so I looked at Michelle and I'm like, I'm kind of freaking out. If by the end of this month I don't find something, we're going to start being tapped out soon.
Yeah.
And she looks at me and she's like, well, she still had her job. She's a licensed manager and an executive assistant for a company that does pool floats.
Oh, okay.
And she still had her job. They just were working from home, but I didn't have mine. And my anything, because even other production stuff all got canceled, right? And so she's like, well, I guess you got to start writing a resume. And I'm like, what's that? What's a resume, right? You got to start like make a website for yourself. And I'm like, what's that? Everybody just knew me from word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So I made a resume and I created a LinkedIn account. I didn't even have a LinkedIn
Oh,
account.
wow.
I created a LinkedIn account. I started following some people, and Andrea from Robert Half sent me a message out of nowhere. This is maybe like 5 days after my birthday, and I put up everything online
Yeah.
and everything. And she's like, "Hey, I'm a recruiter through Robert Half. I'm looking for video editors. Are you interested in the job?" And I'm like, "Yes, please send me all information." And she's like, "Well, this is a marketing agency that, deals with education and things like that. Are you interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." So I sent her like my resume, my qualifications, and she's like, "Yeah, you'd be a good fit." And I'm like, "Okay, can you tell me more about the company?" And it's like, "Oh, the company's called Digital Plankton, and they're technically an agency, but they do stuff for dental and they do stuff for yoga and they do stuff, stuff like." And I'm like, "Okay." But sure, I'll take it. A job's a job, and I'll take the job.
Yeah.
And I did the interview process, and I got in. And I'm an editor now at this company called Digital Plankton, and I didn't really get it. I was like, I don't know what this is, but you tell me to edit, and I'll edit, right? And what it was is they had made a company called Digital Plankton that was going to do Dental Whale's education content,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't part of Dental Whale. It was a separate company, right?
Yeah.
And so I was doing education content for Dental Whale, and then Yoga Joint, which is owned by David Lopez and
Oh
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and,
I've seen them.
and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, they were also part of this too. We were doing stuff for them
Mm-hmm.
because COVID happened.
Yeah.
They can't do anything in their yoga studios, right? So
Yeah.
Right.
what do you do?
You teach at home.
You teach, either you live stream
Yeah.
or you make classes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did they do? They had a warehouse space. So they had a 20 by 20. They put up
Yeah.
some cool walls, some lighting and all that kind of stuff. And they told me, hey, can you spec this out so that we can do actual classes here. We
Yeah.
pre-record them, and then if somebody wants to watch it, they can do yoga from home. But yeah, sure. So we did a 4-camera setup. We bought lighting and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. It's almost the same kind of stuff that we kind of did here,
Yeah.
but we did it at the yoga studio, right?
Okay.
And then we had to do graphics for each individual episode, and this and that, and audio and this and that. And I set that up. I set up their whole studio,
Yeah.
and then they hired a guy to do every single episode after I did the first couple. But then I was doing a bunch of education content
Mhm.
for Dental Whale. The first piece of content that I did was Ultimate Startup with Scott Luna.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So since he couldn't do his seminars,
Yeah.
he decided to sell his course online.
Yep.
And so he had already done his first course. Now he wanted to do it, which was Business Masters. Now he
Yeah.
wanted to do Advanced Startup. He already recorded it himself. He went to a hotel room, get this, by himself. He had 2 of these M50s that you have here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
One here and one on the side. Hit record, and just did his seminar.
Wow.
30 episodes. Yep. And I did the whole course for him.
Wow,
And
man.
they sold a ton of courses. They sold a lot of those courses
Yeah.
because he couldn't do the seminars anymore.
No. Yeah.
But he doesn't really like he likes the idea of people coming in and
Live interaction, because you can
exactly.
feel their vibe. You can feel this. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
Online
could
courses
get-
kind
I
of like a
get that.
different vibe, right? He
Yeah,
didn't really like it. So
yeah.
once, like a year or 2 afterwards, he kind of
Yeah, I didn't offer those
he
anymore.
didn't offer it exactly.
Yeah.
But that was my first course,
Yeah. Okay.
doing
so
Scott
that's-
Scott Luna's
yeah.
education course.
Yeah.
But it was a different company. It wasn't Dental Whale.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
a year and 3 months after that, it was August of 2021.
Mhm.
Dental Whale absorbed Digital Plankton, and
Oh,
so
did they really?
yeah. So
That's what I didn't know about. Okay.
yeah, they absorbed them. So I couldn't do any more work for Yoga Joint, or
Yeah.
they were getting at a couple other clients.
Yeah.
I could no longer do that. I only work I'm getting paid by Dental Whale. I'm working at Dental Whale. So I joined the education team
Sure.
to start doing educational courses.
Yeah.
So I would actually, so one of the things that I did was Smiles at Sea.
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
remember
we
that's
wanted-
where we met.
Exactly. Yeah. So we wanted to get some interest on some people who were in the educational scene. I set up a camera setup, 2-camera setup, and
Yep.
I was like, "You guys are going on stage to teach people." I forgot what the contest was, but they
Yeah.
go on stage and they do like a 10-minute speech or whatever. I'm like, "Do it in front of the camera, and we'll make it a course, right?"
Mhm.
Your 10-minute speech is like an intro course to something,
Yeah.
and so I had like 25 to 30 people
Yeah.
come, and we recorded it twice. We did it twice. Once in April, and then the other one in, I think it was like October. That's
Yeah.
where we met in Fort
Yeah,
Lauderdale.
Yeah. In Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and then I just started doing a whole bunch of education content. And then
Yeah.
it kind of like word started going around that we had this platform that was going to sell education. They were flying me all over the place. I
Yeah.
went to Idaho, I went to Phoenix, I went to Charlotte. I went all over the place, and I was shooting education content for people.
Education content. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, because they had a bunch of different companies that had like education stuff.
Exactly.
But from what I remember, yeah, that's how you got into it. Yeah, I know we were talking. I was like talking about camera stuff and things
Yeah.
because, we were, shooting it on one of these cameras ourselves, and you're like, I was like, oh wow, he's like speaking another language.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like-
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was way different, but okay, cool. So that's how you got
That's
started.
how I got into it. Yeah, and then I'm proud to say that I went to a dentist because I work for a dental company.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's hard to. When I'm talking to him, I'm like, oh man, I got to get up there every 6 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's been years.
Yeah,
It has
yeah.
been that many years. What advice do you have for dentists looking to create their own video content?
Oh, do it. That's the first piece of advice. You need video
Do
content.
it. You
right?
do, right?
Yeah, you need.
That's the
video.
first thing, right?
That's the first thing.
I
It
mean,
doesn't
'cause-
matter. It really even doesn't matter who you are or where you are.
Yeah.
Look, let's be real. If I came to San Antonio, right, and I'm looking for somewhere to eat.
Yeah.
I get on my phone and I start searching on Google, right?
Yeah.
And where am I going to eat? and then I see it. I look at the review, and then I look at the pictures, and then I look at if they have a website. I'll go to the website,
Yeah.
right? Or if not, then maybe there's a video in actual Google, in the Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
If you're a dentist, how are people finding you? If I'm a regular person at
Yeah.
home and I need to find a dentist, what do I do?
Yeah.
Right?
You Google.
I go to Google Maps.
Yeah.
Dentist near me, right? That'd be a great sign to have, on the top. Name your dental company, dentist near me, and
Yeah. Right.
and you'll be the hit on top every time.
Yeah.
But you'll go and you'll look for them, and then how are they going to differentiate between, Sage Dental,
Yeah.
and Auburn Dental? I think they're right here next to you.
Yeah.
How are they going to differentiate, right? Like what's the comparison?
The
right?
pictures.
The pictures is
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. I mean,
The Google reviews.
The Google reviews, yeah.
The
I mean,
face.
The face.
yeah. The images. I mean,
Well, there's studies that say that if you use stock imagery,
oh yeah.
it kills
Even
your,
we know that.
yeah. Don't use
Yeah.
stock. Use your
Yeah.
actual face. If you don't have pictures, even a cell phone picture is
Yeah.
better than using
Yeah,
stock
a stock
images.
image, yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like a video is incredibly important for your brand.
I think so.
Yeah.
When I'm looking up stuff and I would rather watch the short video than read the description or look at, I'll look at the video every time, 100%. Because I like to be able for them to explain it and go through with me. It's just like YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times are we on YouTube? A week or a day?
Yeah. And then the next step to that is once somebody knows that you exist,
Yeah.
where do they find you? Outside of your website. Because next generation coming in, websites are just whatever,
Yeah.
all right? It's going to be social media, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I'm a millennial, right? I
Mhm.
find out about such and such place. I'm going on Instagram.
Mhm.
What are they looking like what's this restaurant? What does their food look like? And I go on their Instagram and I check it out, right? It's like, for me, it's a way for you to it's funny because I used to be such an anti-social media person. Like, I hated it. Like, I'm all about movies and
Yeah.
this and documentaries and all. But it's becoming a search platform,
Yeah.
right? Like,
definitely.
you go to social media and it's an archive of your practice, right?
Mhm.
And a brand video that you can pin up at the top is incredibly valuable, right?
Mhm.
Because then they can know who you are or what you want to tell them,
Mhm.
right? The first pin of your dental practice Instagram should be a brand video.
Yeah.
Right? It should be what you want to tell your clients, your
How-
customers, your patients.
How well
Did you
can you
get that, Erica?
connect, kind of?
Or your story. It's just your video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be your video. And then
Yeah.
the next one should be a bio about you.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Because then somebody needs to know about you.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a thing about being in the feed, right?
Yeah,
Forget the
no, no.
feed. Like,
It's the
it's the landing point of your social media presence, because they're going to search you not on your maybe they'll go to your website, but if they don't
Yeah.
go to your website, they're for sure going
Yeah.
to
We do
your
that.
to your
Yeah.
Instagram.
Before we bought the van, right? I looked through social media and TikTok like if it was Google.
Exactly.
I looked on there to see what other people were saying about it. Then I would go to YouTube and look at YouTube. I'd go to TikTok and look to see what they're saying about the van and all that before we
TikTok
knew.
has become
which-
incredible to find cool places to go.
Yep.
Yeah, it has.
Like, when I'm traveling all the time,
Yeah.
I don't go to Google anymore.
No.
I feel like Google gives you kind of mixed signals. I've been to, like, oh, let's show me a bar nearby, and it was kind of dead.
Yeah.
But I went to TikTok and they said these are cool bars to go to in 2024.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I know. That's yeah.
I go to TikTok for everything.
Yeah.
I don't even look at the news anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
you find
My
that on
TikTok is my news.
That's a whole little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
That's a whole
so my
different subject.
so if I had advice to a dentist, it's you need to, in order for you to exist
Yeah.
outside of your signage, outside of your physical space,
Mhm.
it needs to be online.
Yeah.
and a video is a huge part of the video brand, because there's also your social media strategy that can
Yeah.
be completely different, right?
Mhm.
If you look at some of the big social media guys, Brian Harris,
Yeah.
for example, he's really big on. That's different. That's like your social media strategy,
Mhm.
right? I don't expect you to have a strategy like that when you just open a practice,
Yeah.
right? You just need a strong, a base, a home base for people to know what you do, who you are, and the vibe of your practice, right? Like, a vibe is really important.
Yeah.
It might mesh well with your patients.
Yeah.
They need to understand or see what the vibe is.
I agree. I think a video is worth it, and I think the people out there, watching this should really consider doing a video. And so, how would somebody contact you if they wanted to talk to you about any of that?
You can go to my website,
Yeah.
burgosstoneproductions.com
Yeah.
website. If you want to see specific examples of dental practices, it's burgosstoneproductions.com/dental practice.
Hmm.
I would say follow me on IG.
Yeah.
My personal IG is Mike J Burgos. Burgos Stone Productions is also on IG too. I try to
Yeah.
update that regularly. I don't have a marketing team behind me, so it's me.
Yeah.
Chris
Well.
is also helps me out a little bit too
Yeah.
on the marketing side.
We follow your stuff. We like it. We follow y'all since y'all started. Since you shot the video.
Yeah.
We're like, wow, check out the stuff he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good, and you know, yeah, I definitely think you people out there should follow him and look at his content. If you can't find it, come just look through us. We follow him. You can find him through us also. And
Or we'll link it on this video.
yeah, Erica,
Down
put it
below.
over here.
Description
No,
Just
put it
down
on
over.
the
below.
description down
Always
below.
good. No, it's over here.
Make sure to like and subscribe, by the way, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like and subscribe was that call to action, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
learning all this stuff. Anyway, John, what's your Instagram, John?
Oh, mine's just my personal one. I don't have one for my.
You need a personal
Design.
brand,
I know,
John.
I
Yeah.
know.
Personal brand.
Yeah, I know. I do. But
The Gigolo.
one day at a
Gigolo,
time.
John.
What's
John
what's
Rodriguez
the
at
what's the
Gigolo.
Instagram so we can follow?
what's that?
Your
What's the
Instagram,
handle?
What's your handle?
No.
No, he doesn't want to do that.
He's gonna set it to
okay.
private.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not a.
That's it. They're gonna be looking through our stuff from John. Now they're gonna look for him now. You know
Yeah,
how those
no,
people work out there.
I really do need to do that. You
need to
for-
step it up.
Yeah.
And Veronica, what's your Instagram?
Do I have one? It's
V
it's
Morales.
numbers. Yeah. Is it V Morales?
Yeah.
V
But I have no
Morales.
clue. Sorry. I don't post. I post very little, and it's usually through Facebook. I'm
Yeah.
older,
Oh yeah.
so I do the Facebook and I do the little. Is it the reels or
It's still reels, yeah.
yeah the
or
ones
the
up at the top?
stories.
The stories.
Yeah.
The stories.
I need a John at 260 Instagram so that way I can have my
John,
rogue
Do
stories.
you have a? Oh my gosh. You know what? Oh, I don't
But
know.
that'd
Hold
be-
on. I don't know.
That'd be a good idea. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we have some stories. All right. Well, we're gonna stop this here because we're into this.
An hour and 20 in.
I know. An hour and 20 in.
I'm really happy you're here, man.
I know.
Yeah, me too.
it's
Me
We
too.
have to
awesome
go-
I'm glad you're here.
I love San Antonio. It's like my second
Yeah.
home now.
Yeah. Yeah.